great young players. So, we got our hands full with that D-line, one of the best D-lines in the league. So Chase is a great young player. He went to Ohio State, so naturally that thing, the Ohio State-Michigan thing wears off on him a little bit. I understand that. We're prepared for, a tough challenge. Should be a fun game.
And Tom Brady, you think I'm not going to be excited to play against the GOAT? Then you tripping. And that is what it is. I'm excited to play against Big Tom. I'm not, I'm not going to apologize for saying I want Tom, no.
All right, so let me come to my offensive lineman in this group, Damien Woody, because, Tom Brady will stand up there publicly and kind of downplay it. But how will the O-line take hearing Chase Young say, oh, yeah, I'm coming after Brady?
Oh, man, Greeny, we take a lot of pride in that, man. The young buck out here talking a lot of trash, to the GOAT and Tom Brady. So, those boys along the front, they got their hands full this time, because we know the Washington football team got 4 first-round picks along that defensive line, but those guys are a powerful unit. They're going to get after those guys.
Dominique, so what do you think? I've been looking at this. I've been looking at the way that the Washington football team can get after the quarterback. Young is not the only first-round pick, far from it, on that defensive line. I look at the way San Francisco built their team in a similar way and made a run all the way to the Super Bowl. Could Brady and the Bucs be in some trouble in this game?
Nope, absolutely not. Nope. It's not because the defense isn't good. Montez Sweat is great. Payne is great. And Chase Young, obviously great. The defense is playing exceptionally well right now, particularly towards the end of games. However, the problem is on the other side of the ball. I can't imagine a scenario where Washington is able to score enough points. I don't really see them putting up 20, 28, 35 points, which I think you're going to need to be able to knock Tom Brady off. So, especially since Alex Smith has been turning the ball over as of late, and they're probably going to end up turning to Taylor Heineke at some point in this game. And no disrespect to Taylor Heineke, but he's not going to be able to outscore Tom Brady along with all those weapons he has on offense. So, nah.
It doesn't seem that I get the Taylor Heineke part of it, but when you got a defense led by guys named Payne and Sweat, it feels to me like you at least have some semblance of a chance. Chef,
and Chase.
What are you thinking here? It's been such an interesting year for the Buccaneers, and maybe that should have been expected. But after their bye, the last 4 games, they didn't play a winning team, but they've looked much better. What sense are you getting of the confidence level coming out of Tampa?
Well, first of all, how about this, Greeny? This is the first time that Tom Brady ever is going to the playoffs as a wild card. Mm-hmm. He's never been a wild card. So we could call Tom Brady a wild card right now for this postseason, which he's never been before, which is amazing to me to think about, as long as he's played, that he's never gone in that regard. The other sense is I think that just his presence has infused this team with confidence all year long. And I think when they get to the postseason, there's probably even more confidence knowing that they've got a guy at the helm who's won 6 Super Bowl titles. Now, Mike Evans was not at practice on Tuesday or Wednesday, which is not a good sign for his availability on Saturday night. But this is exactly why they went out and signed a guy like Antonio Brown. So now you line up Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown and Scotty Miller and Rob Gronkowski, and you're still loaded even though you could be without one of your top offensive players. And so I just think that they turn to Brady and they say, show us the way. I know you've never been to the wild card round, but we've never been to the playoffs, period. Mm-hmm. So take us to the promised land.
Yeah, and we'll get through some of those injuries in just a moment. So, Nick, let me spin it the other direction then. You're very unenthusiastic about Washington's chances. Let's switch it to the other side. How about the Buccaneers as the team with the best chance to go into Lambeau Field and knock Aaron Rodgers out of these playoffs? Do you think Tom Brady has a potentially another Super Bowl run in him?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't bet on the Bucs versus the field, but I do think they have a chance. I think they are probably most likely team to be able to go in to Lambeau and win up there because he can score with Aaron Rodgers potentially, and we saw what happened. Though it was in Tampa, we saw what happened when those teams played earlier. The Buccaneers blew out the Packers, and I don't think that that's kind of descriptive of how different they are as teams, but it shows that they have the talent to compete with them. And I know the weather's going to be a little bit different. It's probably going to be a lot colder up in Lambeau at this time of year, but I don't think that's enough to slow down Tom Brady and that defense that is playing pretty well at this point.
Depending on how this weekend's games go, that could happen next week. We could be looking next weekend at that matchup between Brady and Rodgers in Lambeau, but there's a long way to go before we get to that. Meanwhile, Shefty, let's run the hurry up here through some injury situations starting in L.A. What is the latest with Jared Goff?
He was at practice yesterday, Green. He was throwing the football, which is a good sign. Now, the Rams head coach Sean McVay is not ready to say that he's going to start over the financial analyst, John Wolford. But, again, it's a good sign that Goff was out there throwing the football about 10 days after he underwent thumb surgery with an injury that would sideline players usually a lot longer time than that. They may take this up Saturday before making a decision. Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver for the Rams, was activated off the reserve COVID list. He is expected to be out there on Saturday against the Seahawks in a game the Rams will have to have him really to keep up with Seattle and to try to win in Seattle against a tough Seahawks team. But Cooper Kupp is expected to play, as is Michael Brockers, who also was on the reserve COVID list. As for Mike Evans, who we mentioned earlier in the show, not spotted at practice Tuesday, not spotted at practice Wednesday. That's not a good sign with that left knee injury in terms of his availability for Saturday night. Again, that short week probably doesn't help the situation any, with Tampa playing on a Saturday night after he went down on this play Sunday with the injury. We'll see if somehow Mike Evans can find his way back.